Hey heroes and welcome to this new world video. With the release of the Greatsword patch in the PTR, they've added a lot of new additions to the game. One of these are the Heartrunes. Basically these Heartrunes are new equipables that grant you some kind of ultimate ability, and they charge up while dealing or receiving damage. In today's video I want to show you exactly what you'll need to craft all of these when they release into the live game. So to craft a Cannon Blast rune, you're first going to need to find the minor Heartrune of Cannon Blast. This can be found from the boss Admiral Blackpowder, and that's the first boss in the Barnacles and Blackpowder expedition in Cutlass Keys. But this item can also be crafted if you acquire 8,000 Barnacles material. You'll then use the minor rune to craft the major one. For this we need the minor rune, 25 rune stone, 5,000 umbral shards, and 5 corrupted lodestone. Once you have this, you'll have the option of 3 legendary runes. First we have the Brutal Heartrune of Cannon Blast. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 10 ruby gypsums, 1,000 saltpeter, and 10 garnet gypsum. The Stalwart Heartrune of Cannon Blast requires similar ingredients with the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 3 gypsum orbs, 1,000 saltpeter, and 10 emerald gypsum. And then we have the Cunning Heartrune of Cannon Blast. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 50 vials of Azoth, and 1,000 saltpeter. So now to see what they do. All of the Cannon Blast runes share one of the same perks. This is Burning Blast. This inflicts burn on successful hits and deals 10% Heartrune damage per second for 5 seconds. For the Brutal Heartrune of Cannon Blast, its second perk is Explosive Blast. This makes the cannonball explode on impact but deal damage in a 3 meter radius, the downside being that its damage is reduced by 20%. For the Stalwart Heartrune of Cannon Blast, the second perk is Concussive Blast. This makes the cannonball knock enemies down but only deals 30% Heartrune damage. And finally, the Cunning Heartrune of Cannon Blast's second perk is Penetrating Blast. The cannonball passes through enemies and cannot be blocked. So for the Darkscent rune, you're first going to need to find the minor Heartrune of Darkscent. This can be found from Isabella in Tempest Dungeon. It can also be crafted with 8,000 Tempest material. Once you have the minor Darkscent rune, you'll be able to craft the major. This requires the minor rune, 25 runestone, 5,000 umbral shards, and 5 corrupted lodestone. Once you have the major rune, you'll have the option of 3 legendary ones to craft. First is the Brutal Heartrune of Darkscent. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 10 ruby gypsum, 5,000 feathers, and 10 garnet gypsum. Next is a Stalwart Heartrune of Darkscent. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 3 gypsum orbs, 5,000 feathers, and 10 emerald gypsum. And finally, we have the Cunning Heartrune of Darkscent. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 50 vials of Azoth, and 5,000 feathers. All 3 of these runes share the first same perk, which is the Leeching Fall, heal for 100% of the damage done. And then for the Brutal Heartrune, you gain Empowered Fall. Successful hits deal 150% Heartrune damage but no longer stagger. For the Stalwart Heartrune, you gain Fortifying Fall, gain Fortify on successful hits, 3 maximum, increasing damage absorption by 10% but reducing outgoing damage by 10%. This basically means if you hit 3 enemies, you'll gain 30% Fortify, but your outgoing damage will be reduced by 30%. And then for the Cunning Heartrune, you gain Crippling Fall. This inflicts slow on successful hits, reducing target movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. To craft the Detonate runes, you're first going to need to find the minor Heartrune of Detonate. This can be found from Heru in the Ennead expedition. It can also be crafted with 8,000 Ennead material. Once you have that, you'll be able to craft the major Heartrune of Detonate. This requires the minor rune, 25 runestone, 5,000 umbral shards, and 5 corrupted lodestone. Once you have the major rune, you'll be able to craft one of 3 legendary runes. First is the Brutal Heartrune. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 10 ruby gypsum, 20 pristine sapphire, and 10 garnet gypsum. Then we have the Stalwart Heartrune. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 3 gypsum orbs, 20 pristine sapphire, and 10 emerald gypsum. Then we have the Cunning Heartrune. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 50 vials of Azoth, and 20 pristine sapphire. All 3 runes share the same first perk, which is Accelerating Charge. Your movement speed is increased by 30% while charging. For the Brutal Heartrune, you gain Escalating Explosion. Explosion damage is increased by 30%, but you take 15% more damage while charging. For the Stalwart Heartrune, you'll gain Leeching Explosion. You will heal for 50% of the damage done, but the explosion damage is reduced by 30%. For the Cunning Heartrune, you'll gain Empowering Charge. Outgoing damage is increased by 15% while charging, but explosion damage is reduced by 20%. For the Grasping Vine runes, you're going to need to find the minor Heartrune of Grasping Vines. This can be found from the Caretaker in Genesis. It can also be crafted with 8,000 Genesis materia. Once you have this, you'll be able to craft the major Heartrune of Grasping Vines. This requires the minor rune, 25 runestone, 5,000 umbral shards, and 5 corrupted lodestone. First you have the brutal Heartrune of Grasping Vines. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 10 ruby gypsum, 1,000 thorny vine, and 10 garnet gypsum. Next you have the stalwart Heartrune of Grasping Vines. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 3 gypsum orbs, 1,000 thorny vines, and 10 emerald gypsum. And then we have the cunning Heartrune of Grasping Vines. This requires the major rune, 10 wooden coins, 50 vials of Azoth, and 1,000 thorny vines. All three of these runes share the same first perk, which is Enfeebling Vines. This inflicts weaken on successful hits, reducing the target's damage by 20% for 8 seconds. For the Brutal Heartrune, it gains Rending Vines. This inflicts rend on successful hits, reducing the target's damage absorption by 20% for 5 seconds, but it also reduces your stamina regeneration by 50%. For the Stalwart Heartrune, you gain Resilient Vines. You gain Fortify, increasing your damage absorption by 20%, but reducing your outgoing damage by 20%. And then for the Cunning Heartrune, you gain Leeching Vines. You heal for 20% of the damage done to rooted targets. To craft the Stoneform runes, you're first going to need to find the Minor Heartrune of Stoneform. This can drop from Shardis in the Lazarus Expedition. It can also be crafted with 8,000 Lazarus material. Once you have that, you'll be able to craft the Major Rune. This requires the Minor Rune, 25 Runestone, 5,000 Umbral Shards, and 5 Corrupted Lodestone. And once you have the Major Rune, you'll be able to craft one of 3 legendary Stoneform runes. The first of these is the Brutal Heartrune. This requires the Major Rune, 10 wooden coin, 10 ruby gypsum, 25 runestone, and 10 garnet gypsum. For the Stalwart Heartrune, you require the Major Rune, 10 wooden coin, 3 gypsum orbs, 25 runestone, and 10 emerald gypsum. And for the Greater Heartrune, you require the Major Rune, 10 wooden coins, 50 vials of Azoth, and 25 runestone. 3 legendary Stoneform runes share the same first perk, which is Fortifying Form. Damage absorption is increased by 10% while active. The Brutal Heartrune gains Unstable Form. Stoneform explodes when it expires or when you press the Heart Gem ability button again. This deals 200% Heartrune damage within a 3 meter radius, but its duration is reduced by 2 seconds. For the Stalwart Heartrune, you gain Mending Form. This heals for 75% of the Heartrune damage per second, but outgoing damage is reduced by 20%. For the Greater Heartrune, you gain Hardened Form. Gain an additional 10% damage absorption for 5 seconds per hit taken, to a maximum of 30%. For those that have stuck around till this point in the video, I have a little present for you. This is a cheat sheet of all the items you'll require before the patch comes out, if you wish to craft each of these runes. I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.